Swinging back in here with some more Warhammer 40,000 BattleSector. We got early access from Black Labs and Slitherine Games. We don't have access to the full game, just the first 6 campaign missions. And there's some new features that we can really explore to give the previous early access that we did some good context. So the way I'm going to structure this video here is we're going to be talking about those newer features first. It's mainly exploring the army management system and the new HQ system that is essentially like a talent point system, and then I'm going to give you my impressions on the updated version. But just to kind of spare you from having to watch the entire video, let me give you just some upfront knowledge about my impressions of BattleSector. And honestly, I think that this is a really good step in a positive direction, which I'll say later in the video, about Warhammer 40,000 as computer games. And I think that this game, in and of itself, I don't think it's going to be something that's going to blow open the box office. That's not even a word that you say when it comes to games, but I'm sticking with it. But nonetheless, I think this game is going to be really solid. If it's 40 or 50 bucks, I think it's going to crush it as far as just portraying a really solid, strong narrative campaign that has maybe like 30, 40 hours attached to it. Who knows? I think that there's enough under the hood as far as how to customize your characters and play through the campaign. With it being strictly linear, there's enough replayability within that. I do hope that there are other paths to the campaign that you can undergo that do have some replayability, or the option to play as the Tyranids. That's the big thing here. Is my biggest gripe with this preview is that it is a strictly Blood Angels versus Tyranid game right now. Now, they have hinted that that might be something different in the future, and they've done this with Warhammer 40,000 Gladius. We've gotten a trickle of new races with Eldar coming out earlier this year, or I think a handful of months ago, actually. So if BattleSector does introduce new races to the campaign, amazing. But if it introduces it to multiplayer and skirmish, I think it'll make this game stand out in the same way that Dawn of War 1 and 2 did for a considerable amount of time. What I like the most about this game, though, is that it is very true to form when it comes to bringing the tabletop to life in a computer game, in a digital IP world. And that, I think, is again, a positive move, and it's a very well translated, I guess you could say, medium for this. It just works really well. So while the game has cleared up a lot of its jank from the last early access to this one, I still think there is still plenty of room for improvement, and they do have about a month and a half or so until the game even comes out. So I'd say this is a good positive direction. But that's a quick little upfront bit of information about BattleSector. If you want to keep watching to find out more about the newer feature I was talking about, or again, just my overall impressions, feel free to stick around. But if you don't, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. It does help me out a ton. And any content creator you watch, that dreaded algorithm is just a pain in the ass. But thank you so much for watching. If you're heading out, let's jump into some of the newer features that we were exploring in BattleSector. One of the biggest features of this version of the early access release that Slitherine has given us is we have access to the Army Management and the HQ Upgrade Center. So for Army Management, as you get access to more units, you can then kind of customize out your overall reserve. So you can add, okay, hey, I want to add more intercessors into here. I want to add more.
We are the lords of the assault doctrine.
Good God, all right, you get it, you're assaulting away. Add more assault squads, or I can add more aggressors. And as I proceed through the game, I can decide if I want to add more and more of these. And it also gives me an option to say, okay, you know, I've got my intercessors because now they've got grenades. I want more of them, versus say, I want more assault squad because I've got this jump pack ability or what have you. What I have noticed, though, about the relative kind of usefulness of the units is that the assault squads, while seeming good on paper and really good in tabletop for Blood Angels, the intercessors and the aggressors, and really mainly the intercessors, really kind of outshine almost anything else I personally have played with so far. And although we do get access to 6 full missions, it's kind of interesting to see that the intercessors really just shine true. Their damage is just so much higher. They have a better range than even the aggressors. So while in the previous version of the early access we were given, the aggressor was quite strong, we now have it so that the intercessor is really just king, especially with or without its grenade launcher. Now, in addition to the Army Management screen, we get the HQ Upgrade Center. Now, this will grant you essentially a series of talents per HQ slot that you have. So, for example, here we have Sergeant Carleon. And we have all of his many abilities as he levels up. And these will give us, say, okay, hey, I want him to be more support oriented, or maybe I want him to be more close combat oriented. We'll give him the assault cannon strafe, which will give him some nice, really awesome capabilities to do some good damage on the actual table itself, or maybe assault tactics to increase melee accuracy, melee damage, and basic range damage for everyone, or I'm sorry, for a individual that you deem. Also, you can choose these per HQ choice. This is not just simply, hey, you're going to get these activated on everyone. It's individualistic. So for brother Atru here, he gets access to a Righteous Exhortation, which increases melee damage by 25%. Since this is his only ability here, we'll go ahead.
The sanguinary priesthood serves the will of the chapter.
Doesn't it though? You get the access to that right away. Now, looking at some of these other ones, we'll just take a look really quick. You can increase that HP. You can increase, you get Hail of Fire here. First line, Flamestorm Gauntlet. So it's cool because this is what gives you access to upgrades to your units, not just simply the actual HQ choice. So again, example here, Flamestorm Gauntlet unlocks this for your aggressors. Now also, look going back over to Sergeant Carlian, this is where we're going to get crack grenades or hand flamers for our assault squads, or infernal pistols for our assault squad and Carlian himself, or the auto bolt rifle for intercessors. So this isn't just simply I can't wait to get a Thunderhammer, make my own Smash Captain. This isn't just simply, hey, I'm going to be choosing these and buffing up this character. You're buffing the way that your army plays, because you're also going down specific lines that are going to buff those unit pieces, right? So maybe I would just want Carlian to be this absolute badass. Well, then I'm going to go down this line, right? Or maybe I really want to buff up my army instead of the HQ choice, then I'm going to go down this line, get crack grenades and hand flamers and inferno pistols for my army. What I personally have noticed is the HQ choices are strong in melee, very weak in range, as to be expected, right? Both of these guys are Blood Angels with bolt pistols and chainswords. I want them to be in that melee. But I have noticed that they're kind of papery, and that might be, by design, right? The further you get into the game, the stronger they get. Obviously, you get Graces of the Angel here, increases his movement gains. Sword of Sanguinius increases that damage and increases movement but reduces his evasion. And then Thunderhammer here, obviously there's going to be, you want your character to have a progression, but what I again have personally noticed is that the HQ choices seem to be better geared towards buffing up your army and less so that individual. Maybe that will come true as you unlock better HQ choices, like say, hey, a librarian, you're obviously going to want to buff up his capabilities versus maybe his army bonuses. But again, that depends on what those army bonuses look like. So I do like this kind of capability where we'll reset and we'll leave. I do like this capability here where you're not just simply down a linear path, in the sense that the HQ upgrades actually kind of say, hey, do you want to buff the character? Do you want to buff your army? And I like too that those HQ upgrades then kind of hinge upon the diversity of your army. Do you want to have a very high diverse amount of intercessors and aggressors? Okay, well, you're going to want to go for those things in your HQ. Or do you want to focus mainly on assault squads? So while the game obviously isn't geared towards heavy customization in the sense that you're choosing every single unit like you would in tabletop, you do still get that granularity in deciding what kind of assault squad, what kind of intercessor, what kind of aggressor, so on and so forth, which is a nice little touch that I think gives us some sight into this with this version of early access from Slitherine. So now we've talked about some of the quote-unquote newer features that we were able to really explore in this version of BattleSector. I just want to talk about my overall impressions about the game. And we haven't had a long time in between now and the last early access we had, but I can tell you the game feels a lot tighter. It feels a little bit cleaner, not as jankety with its animations. There are still some things that I'll notice that when it comes to the progression of combat, like say if a melee character attacks one of your melee characters, the way that kind of pans out is a little bit slower than the rest of the game's natural paces. I mean, you can move things, queue up attacks and movements all at once, but when it comes to melee characters trying to fight it out, one will charge, it'll do its attack, the other one will wait there, the attack will process, and then the other one, then the defender, I guess you could say, does their counterattack if they get one. And it's just kind of a slower, clunkier process. Outside of that, though, I think that BattleSector really excites me on the possibilities. And I've said this before, the possibilities of what this does for Warhammer 40,000 and how we could possibly get a really true to the tabletop version of the game that really does its own kind of lateral move when it comes to portraying some of the rules that we get in BattleSector as it would connect to Warhammer 40K on the tabletop. And we get this really well with Total War Warhammer 1, 2, and soon to be 3, right? You're looking at the rules of Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition, and they make such a good one-to-one transition into the Total War arena. And we've had this in a lot of really great ways with Dawn of War 1 and 2. Let's not talk about the third one. And BattleSector, I feel, is that finally that good push into another, but this time turn-based strategy game for Warhammer 40K. What I hope to see is some roadmaps from Slitherine or Black Labs telling us, hey, we intend to release in the future other races for BattleSector. I think if we knew that this game would just be amazing. As it stands, I think that when it comes to a single player campaign experience, I think it'll be pretty enjoyable. This scaling difficulty is really punishing. And I think that if it's a $40, $50 game, I find no problem with investing the 20, 30, 40 hours of campaign that this probably has attached to it. If this is a $60 game, it would probably, in my mind, just being 100% honest with you guys, I feel like that extra $10 is something that I would kind of wait for it to be on sale. Now, that is only with the notion, though, that you just don't know what's coming in this game yet. We don't really know the full sets of features. And once we know that, it might make that $60 price tag worth it. Maybe there's a multiplayer mode where we can access more races than just Blood Angels and Tyranids. And that's relegated solely to the campaign because this takes place after the Destruction of Baal, the Desolation of Baal, the book. And if that's the case, okay, great. Makes sense from a narrative standpoint. But if the multiplayer has that furthering of the kind of smattering of other races in the Warhammer 40K universe, or at least just a couple more that we can kind of wet our beaks with, then I'm fine with it. Then that's a good way to start into it. But as I said before, plenty of times here, I'm excited for BattleSector. I think it's going to be a really great game when it does come out. I think it might be one of those games you play once and you're done with, again, depending upon what the feature sets are when it comes out. And I think it's a really good step in a positive direction for Warhammer 40K computer games that we just haven't seen for a long time. So again, let me know in the comment section below how you're feeling about BattleSector and how it's shaking up. I think this is a much tighter version of the game, but as I've said now 9 times, I just want to see more about what's going to come at the end of the road here. Are we going to get more multiplayer skirmish capability? Is this campaign a little bit more, or is it less linear? Right? Is there more paths to go down that kind of encourage replayability? All these things I'm really hankering to learn more about. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun action. Go ahead and let me know, like I've said before, if you think BattleSector is another great game in the 40K repertoire, or if it's just a carbon copy of a lot of other things and you're not too excited about it. I know that Slitherine looks at these videos, they look at the Reddit posts on what people say about their games. They are a smaller development house or publisher house, so they do spend a lot of time looking at community feedback. So be vocal, be respectful, but let them know how you feel about this. They did the same thing with Warhammer Gladius. They pivoted on a lot of things and added a lot of stuff into the game that a lot of people said that they wanted in reviews and Reddit posts and YouTube videos and forum posts. So again, be vocal, be respectful, and let the devs know how you feel about BattleSector.